Okay, we are live streaming.
We are on. Very exciting. I love that part of your laugh. It's the best.
Oh god.
Anyone who knows Amy knows what I'm talking about, but that's like the best part.
Really? I have lots of different laughs. Is that part of being a comedian? You have different types of laughs.
Possibly.
Oh, this is going to be an interview with Cara, right? Where she just like, maybe, like.
I never do that. That's nothing. I know nothing of what you speak of right now.
1 second. I can see we're live. I'm just trying to get it up so I can share it.
I'll just do cool hand movements until
my phone is frozen.
Hi,
I just put Facebook back on my phone.
Welcome. Amy was like, I am out of social media.
Off my phone. Yeah, I was still on it on my computer, but I was like, I'm done with it being on my phone.
Time out.
Time out. I'm a little bit of an addict, so I get addicted to things very easily.
And don't tell anyone, but she gets a little fired up too about stuff that goes on social media.
Just get sucked in to other people's shit. Okay. So this is Cara Wright, everyone. If you don't know her, Cara Conlon Wright. She's always right.
Yep. That is one of the reasons I married my husband. So
you just married a man who was always right. Yeah. So Cara is an access consciousness facilitator, and she is an X-Men facilitator. And do you want to just maybe say a bit what X-Men?
A little bit about X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And you may have seen a live with Amy and I before about this, like this general subject matter. So X-Men is basically a specialty of access consciousness, and it is a specialty that deals specifically with where you have taken things that may or may not be abilities and created them or been labeled with them as disabilities. And we look at the different ways in which you can create based on how differently you're wired, really. This reality would call it neurodiverse people or neurotypical people. And it's kind of the difference between the two and the difference that you are. So it's an exploration of all of that, which it's one of my favorite things. So thanks for having me on to talk about it. Because
I love it. I love asking questions about this stuff.
Yeah.
So then today we're talking about chameleon.
Yep. Which, what the heck is that?
What the hell is a chameleon? People are like, what?
Yeah. Well, and I would say, so like I said, one of the things we do with the X-Men body of work is we look at where people have been labeled as a particular thing. And we look at it like, because oftentimes when you're labeled in this reality, we label things and define things in order to change them for the better or fix them, so if you get labeled with OCD or you get labeled with autism, or nowadays there's so many different variations of how people are different. And the thing that I love about this body of work is we don't look at it like a disability. We look at it like, okay, cool, that's how you perceive the world, or that's how you be in the world, and what's great about it. If it wasn't a problem, what would it be? And so this topic around being a chameleon is something that, first of all, is a very large topic. It could go 101 million ways. And it's one of the things that I realized in the very beginning of starting to use these X-Men tools and use this body of work to really give myself more space to be me in my own life. When you're wired differently, as X-Men are, when you are completely unique unto yourself, like there is no one on the planet like you, and you get to a point in your life where you're like, okay, this idea of finding anyone that is like me is a bit futile, and what would it look like to actually be me in the world? This body of work, for me personally, and for a lot of people, is so helpful, because it allows you to start to look at where you've decided most of most people come to this body of work, A, thinking that it has nothing to do with them, or B, thinking that they're so messed up and that they have all these areas in their life where they've been wrong and they can't figure out how to get out of being wrong, being the label that they've been labeled with. And so chameleon is a really interesting energy, because one of the things that when you're wired differently, that's really common among all people, all X-Men, is that they're very aware of their environment. They're very aware of the people in their environment. They're very aware of like not just the people, but like the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that come along with all the people, and the projections and the expectations and the rejections and the separations and the judgments that people do here. And that's what we're all taught. You're never taught to just interact or engage with someone as who you are in that moment and who they are in that moment. It's always like you're in an engagement or interaction with someone for a purpose, for a result, to get them to do something, to get something out of that, to get something, whatever. Like there's so many different reasons why we are in relationship with people. And for people who are really, really intensely aware, oftentimes we have the capacity to immediately become whatever is required in that moment, whatever is required in that interaction or engagement.
So that right there is that chameleon.
Yes.
Okay.
The
So
ability to, yeah. So it's the ability to basically perceive your environment and adapt to whatever is required in that environment in a nanosecond.
Okay. So say that again for people who are joining, because they're just joining and they're like, what? One person is like, can you tell me what body
say
process?
It again?
One person's like, can you tell me what body process you're talking about? Chameleon.
Oh my God, maybe it is. Well, and the thing is like your body is involved in this. Like your body is not separate from you as a being. So if you are an X-Men, if you are neurally diverse, if you are wired differently, so is your body. You would not create a body that could not create with you. So what would it look like if you actually allowed your body to actually be the chameleon that it bees as well?
So you're talking about the chameleon. Chameleon is actually a gift. It's actually a capacity. It's an X-Men capacity, and it's an ability to perceive the environment around you and adapt to that environment.
Yep. To deliver whatever is required in the 10-second increment.
Could you give me like a simple example, like maybe like an easy example where we might do that?
Yeah. I mean, the thing when I first learned about this, because there's a lot of ways where people will make themselves wrong for being a chameleon, because we've all heard this reality's version of like, you need to be yourself, but it's from the perspective of that is some sort of defined space that you decide who you are, you conclude who you are, and then you are basically the right thing to do is to always be consistently that thing. So for those of us that basically shapeshift based on the environment, based on the person, based on the circumstance, that can be seen as incorrect. Like, oh, you're not being genuine to you, so authentic, all these things like that everybody's made like the thing to be. What if that's not actually, the greatest choice you could choose? What if being willing to adapt, be different, to say or be whatever someone requires in order to create the greatest possibility, which is really what a lot of us are choosing, and then we turn around and make ourselves wrong for it. What if that's not wrong?
So is it like, yeah, I think we're just still like kind of trying to, we're like, so like a chameleon adapting to your environment would be like, say I go to yoga, how do I adapt to my environment there? Is that where I like kind of look like I'm doing yoga?
No, well, it's much more subtle than that. So also too, like everywhere you've decided a chameleon is like super obvious, so much more of us are really subtle about it. So like when you show up to your yoga class, do you actually already know who's going to be in the room, how the class is going to go, how the energy of the class is going to go, and do you choose how you're going to be before you even walk in the room based on that environment? Yes or no?
Yes. That would
That's
be yes.
being a chameleon.
Yeah, it's
and
like
often,
that. Yeah, it's like whatever environment I'm going to. So it could be yoga, it could be an access class, it could be going to the restaurant, it could be going to hang out with a certain group of people. It's like I change according to each situation. Like I'm a different person in each situation.
Yep. And have you ever made yourself wrong for that?
Yeah, I think I'm not being me.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I remember I got this book way back when, and I was like, it's like, oh, how to authentically be you. And I was like, fuck, I am crap at this shit. Like, I don't know who I am. I am the person that I am with that group of people. And I learned this early on. Like, this was like freaking survival for me. Like, when I had to start going to school when I was little, holy hell. Like, that was one of the most uncomfortable experiences in my life. And I learned how to do that. And it worked for me. And yet there's this very strange other side of it, like, well, you shouldn't do that. And we also have a lot of conversations around like being you, and like being you, the change in the world. Like, if you are familiar with Access at all, like that is something that we talk about a lot. And where have you misidentified and misapplied this capacity as not being you?
Well, that's the piece right there. Like that, like you said, like you go into all these situations and you're a different person in each situation because you're adapting to your environment. But I always thought that that wasn't being me. So you're saying that that's actually a capacity, but we've been using it and judging ourselves for it.
Yeah, I'm proposing it.
You're
I'm just proposing. Just consider it for like 5 minutes today. Like, because is it wrong to create ease for yourself?
No.
Yeah. How often do we go like, oh, I should have been a different way in that environment? Like for what reason? Like, how often are we all actually choosing to create more ease for ourselves, to create greater? One of the things that Gary says about this chameleon capacity is like what if it's actually a capacity to know what people can receive and be that instantaneously? What if that's not wrong? And not just is it not wrong, but what if it's like a huge capacity to actually start to play with and to create in the world? Because there are places where you be you, even in the face of it making everyone uncomfortable. But then there are other areas where using it as a capacity or a talent for creating greater, or to your advantage, even doesn't have to create greater, could just make your life easier. Like, what if that's not wrong? What if that's a choice you have and it's simply a choice?
I love that. It's like, because it's also like not about what you say either. It's like who you're being when you're in these different environments. Because I was just seeing there how like I have like so many different environments that I play in.
Yeah.
And like some of them, are like with you or with, Becky, and we're talking about consciousness and we're creating all these things in the world. And then I can go like hang out with some of Mike and his friends and we don't talk about any of that stuff. Like there's nothing. And I don't bring it up, And it's not that I'm not being me. Now I'm saying like, actually, no, that's a capacity. It's not about what you're saying. It's the energy you're being.
And it's your willingness to be aware of like what people can receive and, and what they can't, and like being that energy. And it's actually one of the things that I've heard Gary and Dane talk about a lot. And actually Shannon O'Hara was one of the first people that really brought this to my universe, was like, it's actually it's a kindness to be able to know what people can receive and actually deliver what they can receive and not deliver more, not be like in their face, like, and so what if, this is one of the greatest things about you that you've just never actually explored because you decided it's not a great part of you, or it's wrong, or you shouldn't be that way, or you're not being you, or all the stuff, all the things that we do. So
wow, I love that. Vicki Johnson wrote, I've been a chameleon since early childhood and
somewhere it became a habit rather than a choice.
Yes. And thank you for that. Cause that is the other thing. Cause then what can happen too, because many of us like we have the ability, we use it, it works for us. And then it slides into this area of becoming like an autopilot, auto response, where we're not consciously choosing the ability. We're just being what other people need us to be without staying present with the choice of it, without using it as a capacity. And that's where it becomes what she's talking about, where it can slide into this idea of, I don't know who I am because all I am is what other people require me to be. So as with any capacity, like anything that you stumble upon that you're great at, that, you know, whether it's bodies or, we can all flip it and use it against us. And that is how we would do that. We would use it against, and I am one of those people who did that for a really long time. And I mean, I'm in my 40s and I'm just now really getting clear on like what I would like to create with my life and who I am as a being. And the clearer you get on that side of it, the more you can go, oh, I'm going to use this capacity here with awareness and with acknowledgement of that's what I'm actually doing. And, you know, when you acknowledge that it's a capacity, you're already going to start having different things show up differently. You're already going to start being more aware of when you're choosing it. And you can look at it and go, okay, is it going to create greater to use my chameleon capacity here? Or is it going to create greater to be me, even though it makes everyone uncomfortable? Or whatever it is that you're choosing.
Brilliant question. That's a brilliant question for us to start playing with. That's a tool, people, just in case you missed it. Will it create greater to use my chameleon capacity here, or will it create greater to be me, even if it makes other people uncomfortable? Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that.
And what if it's just a choice? And what if you can actually play with it? Like for me, what has started to show up is instead of going into the wrongness of like, oh my God, I don't know who I am and I'm just what everybody else wants me to be and all that, the drama and trauma of it all. It's more like, wow, how much fun can I have with this? How much fun can I have at any given moment, being different? And the thing that's so interesting, obviously this is like, I'm like so excited about this topic, but I realized a short while ago that one of the things that I had kind of gotten stuck in was this idea that I had to be predictable to people. And in order to like maintain some of maintain some of the jobs I do, maintain some of the projects I'm on, maintain some of the relationships I had to be predictable. That was literally like one of the things I was good at. Talk about like fucking yourself up. Like that was the exact opposite of what I'm actually really, really good at, which is being a chameleon. But I had kind of like, oh, so that one decision basically locked me into not even being able to have access to my chameleon abilities. And the more I have been willing to go, okay, like what if I, first of all, destroyed and uncreated anywhere I was willing to be consistent or predictable for anyone, and willing to be different in every 10 seconds and just see what shows up, which isn't that comfortable, by the way. Being predictable and maintaining things is a lot more comfortable because you have a lot more control over all of that. And so this has been something that I have been like starting to play with, and it's a pretty big demand in my world. It's like, look, one of the things that I hear people say about Gary Douglas all the time is that he's not predictable. Like just when you think you know him, he changes. That's what that's my demand.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump more into like this whole topic of being a chameleon and how to use it to your advantage, and maybe also probably looking at where we have been using it against ourselves, and then
totally
actually start looking at that, and then start looking at how we can use it to our advantage in this 3-part teleseries with Cara, right?
Yes, we are. Chameleon. That's what it's called. Yeah, a little bit. I don't know dates. Sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I had the dates in my journal, but so it's going to be 3 parts and chameleon, and we're going to jump more into this topic. Is there any prereqs? What it's called? No prereqs, so anyone
can come on. Yep, anyone can come on.
Brilliant.
So I'm super excited about this, obviously, as I've been just like blah 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 blah. And I hope that we get lots of chameleons coming on, because what would the world look like if we all were willing?
So much fun
to show exactly.
Being
like
a
there's this
chameleon
energy
so
of like
much fun.
Totally.
Do you know, like I used to before COVID, I used to work in a restaurant on a Saturday night, just work one day a week, like, and I used to go in and like it'd be like, oh, tonight I'm playing waitress, and tonight I'm playing with the register, and tonight I'm playing with like, ordering food for people, and it was just like a game to me, like every different thing I did in my life was like, oh, this is the role I play here.
And what if like that, like, and you're like, just from your energy, it's like, that's fun for you.
Yeah.
What if, I realized how freaking bored I was with being dependable, with being predictable, with being consistent. I was like, gross. Like, I like literally makes me want to vomit. And I had been, doing that for a really, really long time. So I'm excited about getting the fuck out of that and like choosing something much more fun, much more exciting, much more creative.
Isn't it fun how like when you step into acknowledging your chameleon, you can actually do so much more, because then you're like, oh, what do I want to play today? Like, it's like when you're a child, you're like, what do I want to dress up as? Like...
Totally. And so it's like, yeah, what would the world look like if we had a bunch of adults running around with that same curiosity and play and enthusiasm that little kids have?
That would be amazing. Yeah.
And that's what, like, with this community call that I'm doing, that is the energy. Like, what would it look like if we all could tap into that a little bit more? And I'm just really excited. So
me too.
Come and play with us.
Yay, this chameleon is in.
I'm so excited. So.
Becky or one of us will post the link in the thread for you. And it's also been translated into Spanish. Your beautiful Alba is our Spanish translator. Do we have any more languages?
Not yet, but if you would like a language, we can create it.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, and if there's one tool we can leave everyone with to play with today in being a chameleon, what would it be?
If I know not this, what would I know?
Cool. Like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cara. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.